As many of you know, the 996 911 is one of the unloved 911s out there. But for me, I think it's beautiful, and it sounds like this. Which is pretty great. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to do an update on the 911. I've owned the car now for 2.5 years, actually to this month. So thanks for tuning in. As always, if you have questions or comments, please leave those below. And let's get into the video. So most of the time when I do a video for the 911, I'm usually repairing something or doing something along those lines. And thankfully, I've only had one repair I've done really since the headlight washer video. And that was nothing major. Before that, it was the coil packs and plugs. But I want to introduce you to my new, probably about $1,100 or $1,200 piece of wall art. And if you don't know what this is actually the rear passenger side window regulator for the 996 convertible. You know those tiny little windows over there. But I mean, is this thing crazy or what? It's hard to believe that you need this giant piece to control that small window. My guess is because the top controls this window, well, it controls all the windows, but it does control this window, and the rear windows have to be down when the top's operated. So I don't know if that's partially why this is so big, but these parts new are actually around $800 or $900 if you just do a quick search on them. So that was a little bit terrifying when I found that out. I was up on Mount Lemmon and I was putting the top back one night. It's probably been 3 months ago now. And it sounded like the window ate itself. And I knew obviously right away it was the window regulator, and I thought, it's no big deal. I've done the driver's side main window before and it wasn't that expensive. So I was shocked when I found out the price of this part. It turns out, I guess there is a company that will take your window regulator and rebuild it for you, which I'm not really sure what they rebuild in here. My guessing has something to do with the wire and some of this other, maybe these little brackets or something. But you can also buy one of the ones that they've refurbished. And that's a great idea if you're gonna do the removal and install the new one yourself. And that was kind of my plan initially, but I looked around and I couldn't find a good video describing how you do that. And I'm a real visual learner, and I kind of like to have a video to help me along. I found a write-up on it, and it just sounded very complicated and kind of a little bit overwhelming, so I decided not to do it. I called up Scott at Mac Living Motors, as you guys have heard me talk about before, and they ended up giving me their price on this part, but you're still looking at about 3 hours of labor because it involves a lot of things. And Scott was telling me after I got it done that he doesn't even do these himself. He has Ben do them for him, and Ben kind of is a shorter guy. Scott's huge, if you don't know who Scott is. But he won't even mess with them because it's so tight, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to get them in and out. Not only is it hard to get in and out, but I guess there's all kinds of adjustments. And Ben was telling me it's actually pretty easy to break a couple of these parts in here when you're trying to get it in. And if you do that, then you're looking at buying a new one. So I just bit the bullet, paid the money. Not the way you want to spend $1,100, $1,200 on your 911. For me, I was kind of had that money bookmarked for doing the front suspension. I'm dealing with those control arm rattles at this point, and I need to do both the wishbones control arms and the regular control arms. So not the greatest thing to spend money on, but it is what it is. These cars are getting old. I mean, up to 20 years old now. So it's just one of those things you have to deal with. That kind of brings me into something I wanted to say real quick. If you're looking at buying a 996, and this is a video, you're just kind of watching different videos on 996s, kind of like I did when I first bought mine. It's very easy to get excited about and want to get a 996 because they're in all reality they're pretty affordable. You can pick them up between $10,000 and probably around $25,000 these days if you don't get a 4S or a convertible. And considering these cars were 70 to 100 grand new, probably a little higher than that, it's very enticing, and it's exciting because if you're like me as a little kid, you always wanted a 911, and I can't afford to have a $60,000 911 and another car, but I don't just want a 911 for my daily driver. So the 996 gave me and probably you an opportunity to buy a used 911 at a reasonable price. So just remember and have in mind that you're gonna need, you know, a decent amount of money probably every year, at least initially, to kind of start going through all these parts that are possibly gonna go bad on you. Up and above, you know, having to do the IMS bearing, the water pump, the AOS, the RMS, all that kind of stuff. Just be aware. I like to say that out there when anyone asks me about buying a 996 911, just to keep that maintenance stuff in the back of your head. With that said, the other thing maintenance-wise that I've had to do over the last probably 6 or 8 months is the brakes. And again, I had Scott do the brakes for me, and he actually did them the same time he did the window regulator. Brakes are something that I could have done myself, except I've never done the bleeding before, which I have buddies that could help me with that. But when I looked at the price of the parts that I wanted and the time it was going to take me, in all reality, it just made sense to let Scott do it. I mean, they're phenomenal up there. They do great work. And I knew I would have the brakes done exactly right, broken in right, flushed right, you know, bled right, all that kind of stuff. It was only about a $200 difference. So to me, $200 is definitely worth a job on the brakes to have someone else do it. So a while back, if you've been on the channel here for a long time, you know, actually I think it was at 5,000 miles or so, I did a video about my 5 favorite things about the 911. I've been sitting here trying to figure out a few negative things to talk about the car, and I've even talked to my wife about it and trying to figure out, okay, what could I talk about negative wise? And to be honest with you, I really still love almost everything about the car. I mean, the seating position, the clutch feel, the way it shifts, the way it sounds, the way it looks. Despite the non-round headlights, I think it's a beautiful 911. It's very comfortable. I mean, it's fantastic. The 2 things that I came up with to talk about are, number one, when you use the AC in the car, the AC compressor and everything's kind of loud, and it just takes away from the engine noise. I know it sounds kind of silly, but it's always made that compressor noise when I've used the AC, and I'm assuming that's normal. It may be maybe a bearing in there or something's wearing out. It's not like a terrible noise or anything. It's just, you can hear it. The car sounds much better with the AC off. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was sometimes it's almost like the key fob and the security system of the car don't communicate properly. And it's hard to explain, but I'll unlock the car and then I'll pull the handle and it'll honk at you, which means that you did something wrong or that the security features were activated or something. With the 996, or at least with my car, you have to have everything, obviously the doors, but the trunk, the frunk, and the little center console all have to be closed when you actually push the lock button. If it's not, it'll beep at you and let you know. But this is kind of a different story. It's just weird. It's like the sequence gets confused, and then I'll be driving along and the little red indicator light where the locks are, where you lock and unlock the car on the inside, is illuminated. If you push that to unlock it, it'll do that honk noise at you again. So it's almost like it's in theft mode or something, but I don't know. It's just a weird thing. Those are the 2 things that I've kind of come up with to tell you about that are annoying. I mean, obviously spending money on things like this rear window regulator is annoying, but as far as the day-to-day experience of the car, driving it, the driving feel, the look, all that stuff, I mean, I can't complain. The car's fantastic. I love it. One thing that I thought would be kind of fun to do is to revisit how nice the interior of the car is, and just to give you an idea of how it's worn over 100. I now have 120,052 miles on the car. And let's take a look at the interior real quick so you can get an idea of how well it's held up. Quick look on the interior. Everything's holding up well as far as the wood and everything. I wanted to show you the vents because they always stick. I don't know what that is about them, but they always kind of get sticky there. The biggest wear you're going to find is on the e-brake, on the top handle itself, and then on the bottom where it kind of goes in and out there, and then also on the ashtray. And then this is one of my favorite features, little hidden pull-out dual cup holder. I think that's kind of clever. I don't hardly ever use it, but I think it's neat. The driver's side, you can see the bolster shows somewhere, and it's pretty much been this way since I got the car at 108,000, but I still, despite the wear, I think it's holding up really well. A couple little nicks. You can't really feel them, but you can see them. And then I want to give you a quick look at the back seats. No one ever sits back here, and I imagine the original owner, no one sat back here either, but there's a little bit of like rubbing on the leather there. You can see just slightly discolored, but for the most part, they're in great shape. And I generally drive with the seats down like that. The passenger seat on the bolsters is basically perfect. There's hardly any wear on these at all. You have to look really close. So here I wanted to show you this dent that I got when my laptop blew off of the top of the car and hit right there when I was at Indy Motorsports. That was not good, but thankfully my laptop did not get destroyed and I just got a little bit of a dent. I think I may have talked about this in one of my earlier videos, maybe last year, but I'm at a place with the car now where it's getting to the point where I need to start going through the suspension, which is going to be expensive. When you're talking control arms, and down the road I'll do shocks or springs and struts, all that kind of stuff. So you're starting to talk about decent money. And then I would like to paint it at some point. Currently, I mean, the car looks great from 5 or 6 feet away. There are definitely, scratches and things in the paint and rock chips and all that kind of stuff, but it looks good from 5 to 6 feet away. The top also shows a little bit of its age, but still for the most part is in good condition. And I don't know if it's the original top. I think it is. It looks like it would be. But, if you're talking a paint job and a new top, you could be, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 grand. And with 120,000 miles on this car, spending 10 grand on stuff like that, and then say the motor, something happens with the motor that is inevitable. I know at some point you got to get in there and do the timing chain guides and all these other things. So I'm kind of at a dilemma at this point as to what direction I want to do. I am going to do the suspension stuff, at least some of it. And then probably before I start messing with paint or any of that other, or the top or stuff along those lines, I'm going to dig into the motor and try to at least do some things like preventatively, so I don't have to worry about if I do end up painting it and stuff that something catastrophic is going to happen. I mean, I know you can't ever totally prevent stuff like that, but I just want to do it smartly from here out, because you were talking about a lot of money in a car that really is never going to hold its value. I mean, I'm never going to get even half of what I put into the car, but I want to keep it and I love it and I enjoy it. So it's something I'm going to do and take my time with. It's not like I'm going to go out and spend all this money on it right now, but just kind of a thought process. So anyway, I think that's about it, guys. I couldn't really think of anything else crazy to tell you at this point. I'm still enjoying it after 2.5 years, and I'm glad I bought it, despite all the little crazy maintenance things I've had to pay for. It's still been a total joy to own and drive, and puts a smile on my face every time I go out there. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.